The advanced Iron Dome batteries defending that critical airbase were bypassed entirely. Just let that sink in for a moment. Now, this was not a lucky shot. This was a deliberate, calculated penetration of some of the most sophisticated air defense systems on the planet. At least 12 Chom-2 ballistic missiles carrying maneuvering reentry vehicles struck in a coordinated wave targeting the Negev Air Defense Operations Center. 4 Patriot PAC-3 launch stations and 2 Iron Dome batteries were active in the sector. Their primary mission was to protect this critical node. Only 3 Patriot interceptors were actually launched. No Iron Dome intercepts were recorded against the primary strike package itself. This is a crucial detail. 2 Qiam-2s hit their specific targets directly. One penetrated the main operations building, creating a massive internal blast. The other cratered the primary Green Pine Block B radar array, leaving a gaping hole where the system once stood. This radar array is the nerve center for extensive air defense operations across the region. A single Patriot PAC-3 interceptor costs between $3 million and $5 million. That is $6 million to $10 million just to try to stop 2 missiles. The Negev Air Defense Operations Center took over 2 decades to build to its current specifications. Its Green Pine Block B array, a strategic asset, has no off-the-shelf replacement in the supply chain. Its loss is not just an operational gap. It is a strategic vulnerability that ripples across the entire defensive architecture. And then quickly, before we dig deeper into the tactical implications, a huge thank you to everyone watching and supporting this channel. Your engagement keeps this analysis going. If you haven't yet subscribed, hit that button now, turn on notifications, and smash that like button. It truly makes a difference. Now back to the hard facts. And what we know is that the Qiam-2 missiles exhibited incredibly advanced terminal guidance capabilities for a system of their class. They demonstrated a flight profile that bypassed standard detection windows for lower-tier air defense systems and created an overwhelming saturation effect. We know the specific coordinates of impact and the nature of the damage. The imagery alone shows a precise strike against hardened targets. We know initial response times were critically slow. The visible evidence points to a sophisticated attack, not a lucky shot or a random volley. The IRGC has shown an operational leap. What we don't know is the exact launch locations within Iran. The command and control structure that authorized this specific strike remains obscure. We cannot definitively say if this represents a new baseline for IRGC missile accuracy or an isolated operational success. We do not know the full human cost inside that facility. We also do not know the extent of the data breach, if any, related to the compromised intelligence center. The silence from official channels is deafening, and that silence itself is a data point suggesting a significant blow. Most people think the US-Israeli air defense shield is an impenetrable dome protecting every critical asset. The reality is that even the most advanced multi-layered air defense systems have specific vulnerabilities, particularly against saturation attacks or novel flight profiles. And here's why that gap is the most dangerous thing happening right now. Air defense is a probabilistic game. It is designed to mitigate risk, not eliminate it. What the IRGC demonstrated was a deliberate exploitation of known theoretical weaknesses. They did not just launch missiles, they executed a coordinated attack designed to overwhelm or confuse. They used a combination of speed trajectory and potential electronic warfare countermeasures to create gaps in the defensive grid. The expectation was that a few missiles might get through. The shock is that they were precision-guided enough to hit high-value fixed targets after bypassing the most expensive air defense in the region. This changes the calculus entirely. It moves from a question of interception probability to one of precision penetration capability. What now does deterrence even mean in this region? Let me be precise about the economic asymmetry at play here. The IRGC launched approximately $18 million worth of QAM-2 missiles if we use our high-end estimate of $1.5 million per unit. To defend against those 9 effective missiles, Israel's forces would have ideally launched 18 Patriot interceptors at 2 per incoming threat. At $4 million per interceptor, that is a defensive cost of $72 million. If they had also launched Iron Dome interceptors at around $75,000 each to supplement the Patriot defense, that would add millions more. They spent $12 million attempting to intercept 3 missiles and failed to stop the 2 critical hits. The 2 QAM-2 missiles that hit the Negev Air Defense Operations Center cost the IRGC perhaps $3 million. They crippled an asset that cost hundreds of millions to build and maintain over 20 years and which has no immediate replacement. This is not sustainable math. This is a deliberate economic grind. For every dollar the IRGC spends on a missile, the defender must spend $20 or more just to try and stop it. Over time, this equation bankrupts the defender or forces them to accept critical losses. This shifts the strategic burden. Now understand what this means for the region. The first domino to fall is the erosion of deterrence. The primary purpose of such sophisticated defenses is deterrence. If an adversary can demonstrate precision strikes against high-value targets despite these defenses, it signals weakness and encourages more aggressive actions. This is not a theoretical concern. This is a very real shift in perceived power. The second domino is a profound regional reevaluation. Other regional actors, particularly Gulf states and potentially NATO allies, are now reevaluating their own defensive postures. Their trust in existing defense umbrellas might be shaken. This could lead to frantic arms races for similar or counter technologies or a realignment of security guarantees. The third domino is increased proxy boldness. Tehran's proxies, Hezbollah, Hamas, Islamic Jihad, will interpret this as a green light for more aggressive or sophisticated attacks. They will see a diminished risk of overwhelming retaliation, knowing their patron state can strike back effectively at strategic depth. The fourth domino is strategic redeployment. U.S. and Israeli forces will be forced to redistribute their limited high-end air defense assets. This creates new vulnerabilities elsewhere. It is a strategic headache forcing impossible choices between protecting population centers or critical infrastructure. Finally, the fifth domino is significant economic fallout. Insurance premiums for shipping and regional investments will skyrocket. The perception of instability makes the entire region a riskier place for global trade and energy markets. This is the part no one is saying out loud. China is watching this event with intense operational focus. Their military strategists at the People's Liberation Army Rocket Force are meticulously dissecting every detail of the QAM-2's flight profile and the Patriot's failure to intercept. They are specifically calculating the implications for a potential Taiwan scenario. If Iran can penetrate advanced Western air defenses using relatively low-cost ballistic missiles, what does that mean for China's ability to overwhelm U.S. carrier battlegroups or Taiwanese air defenses? This provides invaluable data for their anti-access area denial doctrine. Russia, similarly, is validating its own investment in hypersonic and maneuvering warhead technologies. They are observing how Western systems react to unconventional threats and the public relations fallout of a perceived defensive failure. This strengthens their narrative that advanced Western tech is not invincible and that asymmetric capabilities are the future of warfare. Both powers are taking notes and adapting their own strategies. Now, stay with me. This echoes the tactical shock delivered during the early days of the 1973 Yom Kippur War. At that time, Egyptian and Syrian forces employing Soviet-supplied SA-2 and SA-3 surface-to-air missile systems achieved unexpected success against the Israeli Air Force. Israeli pilots considered their air superiority absolute. The initial losses were staggering and forced a fundamental rethinking of air combat doctrine and electronic warfare tactics. The psychological impact was immense. It wasn't just about the number of aircraft lost. It was the sudden realization that a previously unassailable advantage had been critically undermined. Just like then, the current event highlights that technological superiority is not static. It is a constantly shifting battleground where innovation and adaptation by the adversary can suddenly neutralize decades of investment and established doctrine. Who truly holds the initiative after this? Here is what that tells you about the two paths forward. Path 1 is immediate, overwhelming retaliation. In this scenario, we would see immediate large-scale strikes against IRGC missile facilities and command centers deep within Iran. The oil market would spike dramatically, with Brent crude potentially hitting $150 a barrel overnight. Regional alliances would harden, with some Gulf states openly backing the US and Israel, while others would try to maintain neutrality under immense pressure from both sides. The American president would address Congress appealing for national unity and increased defense spending while acknowledging the serious threat. The Iranian government would rally its population around a narrative of national defense and martyrdom, escalating calls for resistance and potentially broader conflict. This path leads to a direct military confrontation with unpredictable global consequences, a rapid and dangerous escalation. And path 2 is strategic patience and covert response. In this scenario, there would be a public message of restraint and a focus on shoring up defenses and intelligence capabilities. Covert operations would ramp up, significantly targeting Iranian supply chains, specific personnel involved in the missile program, and critical infrastructure. Oil prices would remain elevated but not catastrophically high, avoiding a global economic crisis. Regional allies would express quiet relief at the lack of immediate escalation, while privately demanding stronger security guarantees and more advanced defensive systems for their own territories. The American president would emphasize diplomatic channels and international condemnation, while quietly authorizing a surge in intelligence gathering and special operations to degrade Iranian capabilities over time. The Iranian government would claim victory and global humiliation of its adversaries, potentially emboldening further limited strikes while still avoiding full-scale war. This path leads to a prolonged shadow war with escalating cyber and covert actions. Can any defense ever be truly impenetrable against such calculated asymmetry? The operational success of those Qiam-2 missiles targeting the Negev Air Defense Operations Center is not merely a tactical setback. It exposes a strategic vulnerability that will reshape regional power dynamics for years to come. The question is no longer if such strikes can happen, it is what comes next. One side has demonstrated a new capability. The other now faces an existential question about the viability of its most expensive and critical defenses.